I think it's possible and also important that people get more out of the singing that we do in church. I think it's possible by adding another dimension to the songs that we sing. That dimension is quality lyrics. Some contemporary songwriters are writing quality lyrics. Wouldn't it be great if most of the songs we sang in church had powerful, imaginative lyrics? This series, called The Poetry of Praise, is my modest contribution to improving the lyrics of our praise and worship songs. Words are the poet's primary tool, so let's start with diction, the author's choice of words. There are a lot of reasons why poets, including writers of worship songs, choose one word over another in their poems. One of the main factors is the meaning of the word, the definition we find in the dictionary. This meaning is called the denotation. But the denotation isn't all that's to be said about the meaning of a word. Lots of times a word will have meanings beyond the ones that we find in the dictionary. Many words also have strong connotations, the imaginative associations, or the cultural baggage that they carry. Connotation can be a very effective tool for the writing of powerful lyrics, but they can also mess up a song too. When choosing words for your song, carefully consider not just what the words mean, but also what they suggest. A few quick examples: unique, different, and peculiar. These words mean more or less the same thing, but they have very different connotations. Not too many people would mind being called unique, but who wants to be thought of as peculiar? There's a big difference between frugal and cheap. It's the connotation. Dirt and soil. It's the same stuff, but is it in the garden or on your living room carpet? Thin, skinny, scrawny. Connotation. Word choice or diction considers more than denotation and connotation. Formal or informal, archaic, slang, pedantic, concrete, abstract. Let's suffice it to say that the words you choose really matter. And real poets never compromise or settle for a word that isn't perfect. Just because it rhymes or has the right number of syllables or whatever, it needs to be perfect. So the better the poet, the higher the standard for perfection. If you aren't an experienced poet, you have no idea that your words aren't perfect. Gladwell's 10,000 Hours. In order to foster a sensitivity to diction, let's look at two poems. One is a literary example, and the other is a worship song that does this well. Robert Frost's Desert Places. Snow falling and night falling fast, oh fast. In a field I looked into going past, and the ground almost covered smooth in snow, but a few weeds and stubble showing last. The woods around it have it, it is theirs. All animals are smothered in their lairs. I am too absent-spirited to count, the loneliness includes me unawares. And lonely as it is, that loneliness will be more lonely ere it will be less. A blanker whiteness of benighted snow with no expression, nothing to express. They cannot scare me with their empty spaces, between stars on stars where no human race is. I have it in me so much nearer home to scare myself with my own desert places. In this poem, the speaker is walking past a field on a winter evening. But the speaker has a very strong sense of loneliness. The words of the poem don't simply explain the speaker's loneliness. They allow us to imaginatively experience them. In the first line, the words falling and fast are repeated. Consider the effect of repeating these words in such close proximity. Doesn't it hint at a sense of alarm and even panic? The rest of the first stanza partially allays this impression with the peaceful description of the snow-covered field, but we can't shake the disturbing effect of this first line, even in the peaceful context of a snowy evening. Notice there is repetition. Don't let anyone tell you that repetition is bad in a praise and worship song. Repetition can be very good. If it's motivated, it can be excellent. After the first line of the second stanza, where the trees take possession of the field, we read, "All animals are smothered in their lairs." This line really shows the power of diction in the hands of a master. Consider how different the effect would be if Frost had written, "All animals are cozy in their dens." Aw? Big difference, right? Great for another poem, but not for this one. The connotation of smothered is to murder someone by suffocating them as they are sleeping with a pillow. Okay, maybe I watch too much TV. But for Frost, it would have been about the deprivation of oxygen. And a lair. A lair is where beasts and monsters live. Frost's words are disturbing because they're imaginative associations, and his purposes for these words is to help the reader to experience what the speaker is experiencing. This unsettledness. He continues this project in the third stanza. The loneliness includes me unawares. This line, occupying the central position of the poem, carries the central idea. The waves of loneliness come in 4 recurrences of the words lonely or loneliness. Then, another group of words reinforces the idea of absence. Absent-spirited, blanker, no expression, empty, and even desert, which we find in the title. It's clear the speaker doesn't just lack friends. He's experiencing an existential loneliness. The last stanza drives this home. The word scare is an intriguing word near the end of this poem. It lacks the sophistication of the other words. It's like he's scoffing at the vastness of space. Like, you can't scare me, claiming the loneliness inside him is far more profound. This is not all we could say about this poem, but it's enough to illustrate that the author's choice of words can have a tremendous effect in bringing the reader into an imaginative experience, even while they sit in a wingback chair comfortably reading before a fire. The best praise and worship songs will have words that excite our imaginations. So that was a literary example of how words can be used for effect. Let's now turn to a worship song example. Let me just say that it wasn't easy to find a contemporary worship song that did a good job with diction. In my search, I went to the list of the most popular songs from CCLI and found very little until I got way down the list. And the song I found contained lyrics from an old hymn. I did not expect to find anything close to the density of effective word choice that we find in Robert Frost's poem above, but it is clear that selecting words for effect is not a priority for praise and worship songwriters. I suppose that's why I made this video. Here are some lines from Stuart Townsend's How Deep the Father's Love for Us. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that he should give his only Son to make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss, the Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart, his wounds have paid my ransom. In the first stanza we find the word wretch. The connotations of wretch are not that of a pathetic victim, but of a deliberately villainous rascal. Words like ingrate, knave, liar, lowlife are synonyms. But in an amazing reversal of expectation, this villain is considered the Father's treasure. Here the connotations are of heaps of gold and jewels, meaning pulses from the intersection of the word wretch and the word treasure. The second stanza shows us Christ's suffering from the rejection of his Father on our behalf. Theology aside, let's focus on the diction here. The pain of loss is searing. It's not just pain that this word communicates, but a very specific kind of pain. The connotations of this word suggest the deliberate burning of flesh associated with medieval torture. And the next word, in spite of being ungrateful lowlifes, he pays with that kind of pain our ransom. Another word loaded with meaning. The first several times we sing this song, the music or some of the lines will bring us into worship quite easily. But after we sing it 5 or 6 times, we begin to experience a deeper conviction through the power of these specific words. We begin to delve into wretch and treasure and searing and ransom. And when we do that, we go way beyond simply the worshipful feeling evoked by the music to something much deeper. We catch a glimpse of grace, and the gratitude that can follow carries us into a much deeper worship of our Savior. I'm experiencing it right now talking about it. My desire is that almost every song we sing in church gets more powerful every time we sing it, rather than less. Diction is the first, but it's not the only step toward this end. The next time I see you, we will be talking about developing the poetic ear. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of these important videos.